What's up, Internet? You're tuning in to episode 7 of the Steam Deck Podcast, Flip Screen Games' weekly podcast about Valve's hot new handheld, the Steam Deck. I'm your host, Peter Messi, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Steve. Welcome back. What a week to discuss the Steam Deck.
Crazy week. Big week. Q3's over. Q4's here.
And we're going to be talking all about that because Valve has hit us with another update that they have started on their Q4 production early and that they are exceeding their even updated timeline. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about Logitech's new G CLOUD device and whether or not it's a viable competitor to the Steam Deck or whether or not anything can be a viable competitor to the Steam Deck right now. That's the big question on my mind.
I think just wait for the new Logitech G CLOUD handheld podcast coming soon to the Flip Screen Games channel.
Yeah, right. This is the equivalent of the episode where I'm like, I don't know, is the Steam Deck really going to be good? And then it's like a few months from now we're in it, right? We're the Logitech boys.
Yeah. We could be wrong. They've got they're partnering with some big folks, but we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that and a lot more on this week's episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. But before that, let me remind you that this week's episode is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of September. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Barry, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You know we appreciate you. Y'all are the realest of the real, and we thank you for keeping the mics on this and all of our sister shows. If you want to get links on where you can get involved, if you want to find the Discord, the email address, our second YouTube channel, our Twitch channel, our Patreon, wherever you want to find us, flipscreen.games. That's the website. However you choose to get involved, we appreciate you, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. So, let's kick things off with a start screen here, all about Valve's updated production pipeline here. So here, we'll read a little bit from Valve. They said, as some folks on the internet have noticed, we see you, Reddit, we're speeding through reservations at an accelerated pace. This is due to increased production, and we've beaten our own estimates yet again. With today's batch of emails, we've now sent invitations for all reservations in the Q3 July to September bucket. Now that Q3 is done early, we're going to get a head start on the next set of reservations and are fulfilling reservations that were scheduled for the Q4 window. We've updated the store page to reflect this with an updated bucket description, September to December.
Obviously, very exciting news.
Huge
and
news.
Like the first Q4 emails went out today as of time of recording. So check your inbox if you were in that Q4 batch. I mean, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've been refreshing your inbox to see if you had the email anyway, but check your spam, log into the Steam Deck website, see where you are. You're probably likely in that September to December window. I haven't checked though to see, and while you read the other tweet that they've got, I'll check to see if you order now, if you still get it by December, or if that's now pushed into next year.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see because I'm thinking about getting a second one. And interestingly enough, my reservation, the one that I actually made, not the one that I used to jump the line, just showed up yesterday to my friend and bandmate who I gave the reservation to. So, and I got that.
You're just as bad as Holly and Phil, aren't you? Which you won't get the reference, but you're just as bad as them. And if anyone from the UK is listening, Pete is Phil, and that's what we're going to call him from now on. Phil.
That's disrespectful. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Just Google it when you're done. Holly and Phil Q. It'll come up.
Holly and Phil Q. What the fuck?
You can't wait.
What are you saying to me?
They skipped the line to see the Queen.
Oh, wow. Scandalous.
Yeah. It was big news, except they didn't really, but everyone thought they did, and it was a hot scandal in the UK for a while. But I checked, and yes, if you order one today, September to December is the expected order availability. I would imagine you're probably going to get it November, December at this point if you order today. But that's still really exciting that you order one. You'll potentially have it in time for the holidays. Mm-hmm. Definitely by the end of the year. It's really great. I'm really pleased to see that they've well exceeded their expectations. And it kind of feels like, I don't know if they're either just terrible at doing estimates or if they're like factories are just ramping these things out quicker than they ever anticipated, or if they're doing that under promise over deliver thing, which makes everyone feel like warm and fuzzies a
I'm
little
sure it's
bit,
a
or if there's
little
a
bit of
combination
both.
of all of them.
You know, like
Yeah.
I'm sure the initial estimates were accurate and then they were able to increase more and they were probably like, we're going to give ourselves wiggle room because we'd rather get it to you early than get it to you late, right? Like getting something early feels good, getting it late feels bad. And I'm sure that that was a part of the equation of like, yeah, absolutely. We're going to, you know, make sure that we, as you said, overpromise and under promise and over deliver, right? Which is, I think,
It's like the queues at Disneyland. When you go to Disneyland, they'll
Sure.
tell you there's a 2 hour queue, but it's actually only like an hour.
yeah. And you're
Hour
like,
and a
that
half.
wasn't so bad, you know? Like, so I think you're probably right about that. I imagine that's part of the kind of gymnastics that are going on behind the scenes there. But as you referenced, there were a couple other tweets that unfortunately is some bad news for any of our Canadian listeners, where they said, Steam Deck production is faster than ever. We're on track to fulfill all reservations before the end of the year. There's a temporary snag for our Canadian customers that we wanted to address. Please see the follow-up tweet for more details. Our distributor has hit a processing backlog for orders to Canada. So folks in this region will see a very temporary pause on order emails. We're working on it and are optimistic we can resume emails to Canada soon. This doesn't impact emails or shipments to other regions. To clarify, the reason for this pause is so our distributor can make it through the backlog of paid orders in Canada before we resume sending emails to folks in this region. So not like a huge deal, but I imagine if you're a Canadian listener and you're counting the days for your Steam Deck, that is, of course, unfortunate. But given how quickly they've kind of remedied these issues in the past, I would hope that hopefully it won't be a major delay and, you know, things will resume quickly.
Imagine it's like a week, maybe 2 at most. And I've got to say, I really appreciate the transparency around this. It feels like no other company would be transparent about it at all. And they would just not send emails out to the Canadians and no one would know. Because you don't know where you are in the queue, right? And so the fact that they have been upfront about it, so you can kind of just know a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes, I think is good. And, you know, it's worth the wait. I'll say that. Just hold out. I know we had a couple of commenters saying that, you know, don't know if I can wait any longer. I'm gonna cancel my order. Just don't. Just hold out. Wait.
It's worth it.
The wait.
It's worth the investment. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was funny to see a couple people say that. But yeah, it's definitely something where I think it makes sense for them to be transparent given the way that they've kind of rolled things out, and they have had this kind of like, if you're getting one the first year, like you're kind of in this, you know, it's like an open beta almost, like you're part, like it's very being developed in conversation with the community and everything. I think it's just, it extends to the way that they've handled the whole project, you know, of just like, we're going to be transparent and we're going to build this cool thing together, you know, and I think people appreciate it, you know, and I think that's why Valve has a good reputation, you know, is like they feel like a company of, because they are obviously a big company that was able to get together and make this, but it has that feeling of like something that's kind of experimental and weird, and you know.
It kind of feels like a Skunkworks project, right? That a team came together within Valve and built this, you know, and then they pitched it to Gabe, and he's the one that pushed it across the line. It's like, yeah, let's get some money behind this. Let's actually back this, because that's kind of how they work. It's you go to work and you work on what you think is going to be good for the benefit of the company, because there's no managers there to tell you what to do. There's no real hierarchy. It's a flat structure, which is bizarre because it's one of the only big successful companies in the world.
It's so hard to imagine what that's like, right? Like how does the Steam Deck get made, right? Like somebody just like made one and was like, let's do this, and then Gabe comes in and just stamps it and he's like, yeah, let's do it, fuck it. Like it's I don't know, but I think that's part of the allure. I think that's part of why people fuck with them so much, right? Is that like they feel less corporate, they feel less buttoned up, they feel more like we're doing this weird wacky thing, like are you gonna jump on the train with us or not, you know? And it's like, yeah, I'm digging it, it's cool.
Yeah, I like that, and I like that they were up front at the beginning, you know, but I think it's now very clear that this was a successful product. The fact that they've been able to fulfill all of the reservations within the first year is phenomenal, and
the demand is still there. You know?
The demand is still there, and I think it's only going to grow as they expand to more countries. They've obviously moved into Asia with the TGS kind of big show, kicking that launch off into Japan, Taiwan, and a bunch of other places. I think it's Hong Kong and South Korea. But I think there's probably going to be more they want to go to. Right? It's still not officially on sale in places like Australia or Mexico. There's places in Europe you can't get them.
Oh my God. It's going to cost so much in those markets though, right? Like, geez, it's going to be an $850 investment in like Australia or like Brazil, you know?
Yeah, quite possibly. But, it puts it on the same level as like a PS5 because it's a similar cost there. And so it's whether you want to make that investment.
I could see
and
it.
I think you're a PC player already, it's probably worth the investment.
That's going to be the interesting thing is I could see it struggling to find a foothold in those markets. Because, like, you're right that it is the same cost as a PlayStation 5, but I think the PlayStation 5 is obviously it's a more traditional item, right? Like,
yeah.
And if you're going to make an investment in, like, and you're going to invest nearly $1,000 in a gaming device, I feel like you're going to be more likely to pick something that has some brand recognition in your region and that you have experience with before and there's continuity there and everything. And like, we talked about, I guess it was on, it was on this show during the TGS episode about how like PC gaming isn't really as ubiquitous outside of, select Western countries, right? Like,
that's I think in Asia though, like China's big on PC gaming.
Really big on PC gaming.
And
right,
I feel like if they can get into a market like China, for example, if they partner with someone like Tencent, which Logitech has done, right? That handheld you can buy a Tencent version in China, then that would be massive for them. But
I think China's a good example, but I could see like Australia and like South America being tougher because like
Australia, I think probably would be okay. I think South America might be a tough one to crack. And there's obviously a lot of logistics around it as well as all of the regulatory things they need to go through. Yeah. You've got to also have like different chargers for every different region. North America's easy. It's like one plug. Europe uses the same voltage everywhere. We have a few different plugs, but we're all 230 volts. So that one's pretty simple. So those two regions, you've got 120 volts and 230. That's no problem. And then the rest of the world's kind of like, it differs, Japan has both 50 and 60 hertz there. So it's like, you got to have a plug that can cater for both. So there's a lot of things that they've got to figure out before they expand to different regions. But I think they'll make it happen. And I got to say, I really want the next PlayStation and the next Xbox to sack off traditional retailers and sell it directly to me through a queue system. I know PlayStation started doing it with their PlayStation Direct store.
Xbox as well, right? With All Access. You could get Xbox, that directly from Xbox.
But I want this process. I want to pay $5. I want to queue up and I want to make sure I've got a guaranteed one. And when my ticket comes up, I buy it. And I know I've got a place in a queue. And then I can stop stressing and worrying about it and trying to hunt one down and potentially go into a scalper.
I don't think they'll do it. Because, like, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough because, like, I feel like when it comes to folks like us, right, like who are like enthusiasts, then that's fine. Like that would work better for us. But you think about how many people like buy a console as like, a big ticket Christmas gift or whatever, right? Like. I think so much of that is tied to the big box stores like your Walmart, your Targets, whatever, right?
You could even do, I think if you did the launch as that, like we're launching the console and we're doing this, rather than what you were able to do before pre-orders were even meant to happen, right? You went straight to GameStop and you were able to pre-order a PS5.
Lucky, right? Like some fucking
they were even allowed, yeah.
Yeah, some dude that worked there just let me break the rules for no reason. Like I was, and it's funny because I remember him like he mulled it over. Like I was like, "You guys got place?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right, shit, let's do it."
Yeah, that's the thing, because like some places did follow the rules, some staff did, some places didn't, and it was like it's been a shit show.
And I was one of the like 4 or 5 people that got one at this store. Like that was the whole allotment
Which
for
is
that
mental.
store.
It's
And I went
insane.
and I broke the rules to get it, right? Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that should not be how it is. And I really think the Steam Deck queue process has been a lot fairer, a lot simpler. It, it made sure that you weren't like a scalper account because you had to have had your account for a certain number of days and you had to have made a purchase on Steam previously in order to even be able to buy a Steam Deck. So it wasn't like I could go and make 60 accounts and just buy up all the Steam Decks and then chuck them on eBay. And you can only have one reserved to your account at any given time. So it really works as a process to me. But I'm interested to know what other people think, if because I know I think I've heard from other people who just think it's a bit opaque. They don't really know where they are. They'd like to have a number, like a more
Yeah.
fixed time
Yeah.
slot.
And I've had that experience as well. Like my buddy Jack, who has one, that was his experience. Like when I jumped the line and everything, he was like, "You son of a bitch! Like I've been waiting for this for fucking weeks. Like I'm literally on Reddit every day, like trying to do math and figure out where I am in the queue. And like,
Yeah.
it would be nice if they were more transparent, you know. And we're
I just don't think they know though. But I guess they could give you a number of where you are in the queue, like you're number 10,000 in the queue or whatever. But then that would also reveal figures of how
Right.
many they've got reserved and sold, and I don't know that they want to reveal that yet. I think they will reveal those numbers at some point because this has clearly been a successful device. But they don't really have any need to because they're a private company. They don't have to reveal these figures for investors or anything like that, you know?
No, the only
They're
reason they would
entirely
do it would be to
self-sufficient.
flex, right? Would be to
Yeah.
be like, holy shit, like there's so many of you. Like, isn't this cool? You know?
I could also see it as a way to encourage developers to make their games ready for the Steam Deck.
Yeah. To
To
show
make
that there's
them
an audience
recommended.
there.
Yeah, like there are 100,000 Steam Decks in the wild, plus all of these other devices that are going to be able to run SteamOS 3.0. Don't you want to get your game ready for them?
I think that's going to be the interesting metric that like they're going to want to hang their hat on is probably less um like overall units or whatever is like at some point obviously you're going to want to brag about that or talk about it, but like I think the bigger thing is, you know how they do that thing where they're like, here are the top 10 games people were playing on Steam Deck, right? Like this month or whatever. That I think will be the interesting metric. Like if they're able to do like a big like piece of like data journalism, like the way that like Netflix does at the end of the year, where they're like, oh, like people watched fucking 500 hours of Stranger Things, or 500 million hours, I should say, of Stranger Things or whatever, right? Like this year or whatever the fuck. If they were able to do something like that, where they were like, oh, people who own the Steam Deck buy games like X% more than regular Steam users, or like, you know, Steam Deck users really represent like power users, right? Like, you know, if you make your game available on deck, your profitability is really higher, or like the level of, you know, folks who buy the game and then evangelize it for you is high. Like those are the metrics that I think are going to make people like sit up and pay attention and be like, oh, okay, so like this is a thing I need to be targeting, right? It's not a nice to have, it's a must.
Yeah, or like like engagement, level of engagement, things like that.
They
I
play
really
the
do
game
think
longer, right? Whatever.
Yeah, I think that's probably where they would want to brag, right? Is to bring on more people, or even bring on publishers who left the platform, like Ubisoft. Like, hey Ubisoft, we'd love to get Far Cry 7 onto the Steam Deck. Here's how many people we've got. Here's how many units we've sold, and we can see all of this data that they're buying more games, they're engaging with the product a lot more than they were when they were playing on PC. Don't you want to bring it back rather than just being on the Epic Game Store?
Yeah, like here's an argument for why you want to be
Yeah.
on Steam, right? It's interesting. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is great to see. You know, I think in general, right, it's been really nice to see them continue to deliver on the vision of Steam Deck, and it's been a really like fun thing to just like be along for the ride, you know, as much as I like enjoy the time with the Steam Deck and like how much I actually play it, which is I'm surprised by how much I use it. It's one of my primary platforms now. Which is huge, right? I'm sure Steam is really happy about being able to win over players like me who like have a casual relationship with their Steam library, and now I'm like buying games on Steam instead of other platforms. Like they got to be happy about that. But it's
I mean, I was looking at building a PC next year, and you know, my dad was asking like, oh, you know, what can we get you for Christmas? And I was like, well, maybe a GPU, because you know, Nvidia's just announced their ridiculously expensive cards. AMD's got RDNA 3 around the corner. So all of those old cards, all of that stock that they'd overproduced for the crypto miners is going to be going cheaper. So I feel like this may be the time for me to snag one of those last generation GPUs before the new ones make it onto the market.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But yeah, it's I'm happy to see this, and I'm hoping that that this trend will continue for them, because boy knows I am ready for that Steam Dock. So I'm hoping they're moving along on that one too. So
yeah, me too. I mean, I wonder if the third party one would feel. We actually got a question about this from Armo before we move into the main topic.
hit it.
It was like a follow-up question, but they said, what if you can get an ultimate dock with a GameCube controller port, a PlayStation controller port, and one for an Xbox controller, etc.?
That'd be sick.
You'd be on board for something like that?
Yeah, you kidding me? That'd be awesome.
I feel like I'd want something with like an N64 port in there, because I feel that's one of the controllers that's like really unique.
Yeah,
it'd be really cool to have that.
That would be cool. I guess like my only pushback on that is it's probably not super necessary for you to do that to be able to use those controllers, because like obviously PlayStation and Xbox, their last several iterations have been wireless. You can connect them to your Steam Deck very easily. When it comes to like more retro controllers, there are a lot of good modern solutions for those things. Like I have the Power A GameCube controller, which is basically the guts of a Pro controller shoved in a GameCube controller. And granted, you don't have like the buttons or the triggers are buttons, right? Like they are on the Pro controller. They're not like the what's the word for it, where it's how much you're pressing it applies pressure rather than
analog.
it being, yeah, thank you. It's not, it's not giving you that experience. So like if you're a real stickler for that kind of thing, sure, but there are a lot of third-party solutions for you to buy, like an N64 controller that hooks up to a USB port or whatever. So,
well, yeah, and even Nintendo has their one that's Bluetooth. I don't know if that works with other systems.
I bet it does.
Yeah, I would imagine
the Pro controller does, right? Like, why not?
I do like this as a concept, though.
For
it ties
sure.
into that JSOX one that we looked at, and it also reminds me of the Aya Odin. Has a dock called a Super Dock, which is really cool, and you can put like a 2.5 gig inch SATA drive into it, so you can. It's a similar thing to what we looked at a couple of episodes ago on the starter guide, where there was that dock from JSOX where you put like an SSD into it, so you could have like all of your ROMs and stuff on there. But I like the idea of having all of the controller ports there as well. Because I'd love to be able to like hook it all up. Everyone can come around. We can all play some Mario Party or something. And
Have you
all,
ever
hooked up to the TV?
Have you ever heard of the Retron?
Retron 5, yeah.
Yeah. They have. It's a similar thing where it has like the different ports for whatever consoles it supports and everything. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I could definitely see that being a really cool thing, especially if you're trying to like get into multiplayer stuff.
I wouldn't also mind having something that can read cartridges as well at some point. I've been meaning to pick something up so I can get like saves and things off of old games so I can use them.
Oh, and like clone them.
Having actually being able to put like cartridges into a dock and just having the Steam Deck play them would be really cool.
That would be neat. I have no idea what that would look like, but that would be cool. All right, so let's jump into our main topic this week, which is going to be all about Logitech's potential Steam Deck killer. Just kidding.
Yeah.
The Logitech G CLOUD. So this is a Android gaming device that is streaming centric. It is obviously from the folks at Logitech, and with a pretty significant partnership with Xbox. So this is, if you are an eagle-eyed viewer, you may recognize this as the device that one Hideo Kojima was seen playing around with that was making the rounds recently. We know that Phil Spencer has had his hands on it for at least like a month or so. And it's got some pretty significant Xbox integration here, where you have Xbox Cloud Gaming, and then you've also got what's the other thing called? I can never remember.
So there's Xbox Cloud Gaming. You can get GeForce Now on it, or do you mean the Xbox
The other
like remote play?
remote play, yeah. Whereas and that's another one where like it's literally like an app built into it on the homepage where you can just
Yeah.
in a button be streaming from your right from your Xbox and like have access to your entire Xbox library on this device. So obviously some interesting functionality, and this is
And it's an Android device, so you can also just install the PlayStation app as well. And
yeah,
have that
or like
functionality
any
is
Android
there.
app, right? So like you could
Yeah.
run uh uh RetroArch, any of those, like it's a perfectly suitable emulation device, right? We did get a little commentary from Phil Spencer. He retweeted something from the Xbox Wire account where they had said, take Xbox to more places with Xbox Cloud Gaming and Xbox Remote Play on the Logitech G Cloud Gaming handheld. This was kind of their like Xbox announcement of it. And Phil retweeted this saying, I've been using the Logitech G Cloud for about a month. Incredible streaming device for playing while I'm away from my console. I love the feel, the battery life, and screen size. Took it to Europe and TGS and had a great time playing, even on hotel Wi-Fi. And I've seen some similar conversation from other folks who have gotten hands-on with it. That like has definitely like seen some positive buzz. Paris, who you might know from like Gamertag Radio, or he works at Kind of Funny. He hosted the Xbox Showcase recently. He talked about it. He's been talking about it a lot on Twitter, and he actually replied to Phil's tweet and was saying that he enjoyed my hands-on time the past week. Easy to pick up and play using the Xbox app and local streaming via Steam. I'd love to see the next step being local streaming via the Series X and the Xbox app on PC. A great second device that shows the future potential of cloud gaming. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it also supports NVIDIA GeForce Now and Steam Link. So it's worth saying that if you, for some reason, think this was a better fit for you than a Steam Deck, then you can stream from like your gaming PC at home if you want to. I don't know. That price, $340, so it's $349 or it's $299 if you pre-order. There are some pros that it's got, I think, over the Steam Deck, like at least on paper. It's got like it offers better battery life, but I do wonder if I could eke out similar battery life if I only streamed games to my Steam Deck rather than actually playing them locally. I think I probably could if I limited the TDP to like 5. And it's a 1080p display, but I don't know that
60 hertz refresh rate on the screen too.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how often it's actually going to look like 1080p if you're streaming from xCloud or GeForce Now or whatever. I don't know. I don't mean to be a downer on their device, but I feel like it's reaching to a place that I don't think we're ready for yet. I don't think cloud gaming's ready. I've tried it so many times at this point, and it just is laggy. So laggy.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's unfortunate is I think that there's like things about it that like when you think about it like in a vacuum, like I think there are things that seem appealing. Like I could definitely see, the appeal of doing the Xbox thing and being able to play like my Xbox library on the go and all that kind of stuff, being able to have like a device that's like intimately connected to Game Pass and that kind of thing. Like those are things we obviously have been asking for with with Steam Deck. And like when you look at the actual build of it right now, right? Like you got remappable controls, you got like a nice solid looking setup between the sticks and the buttons and the triggers and everything. Like it looks like a nice device, but I think
it looks nice. It looks solid. It's underpowered though for like the Snapdragon that's in there is an old Snapdragon. It's in like Samsung's A series of phones, which are their low end phones. I wonder how well it's going to perform as an emulator device, and if something like an iOdin would be better than something like this. Because there's a similar device that runs Android. You could run Xbox Cloud Gaming on it. I mean, you can run cloud gaming and local streaming on a Steam Deck. And I think for that price, even if all you wanted to do was stream, but there's the possibility you might want to play indie games or something else, I think for $50 more, that low-end Steam Deck, which I know we said, if you can, go to the middle model in our starter guide, I feel like even the low end Steam Decks are better buy than this.
Yeah, and that's the thing I struggle with is like it's not even that this device is bad, it's just not as good as the Steam Deck and it's too close in price. And like the things about it that are unique are the cloud stuff, which is kind of half baked right now. You know, and I think we're both in pretty clear agreement of that. And it's like, I've got pretty good internet in my place, and I can't even really take advantage of cloud gaming, right? Like I borrowed a Razer Kishi from a friend, and I tried to do the whole let's play Game Pass on the phone thing, and it just doesn't really work. It's not ideal, and like there are a lot of games where like it just doesn't work at all, just because of the kind of games they are. And, your mileage may vary, right? I know a lot of people who like live in places with like, like really crazy high internet, right? That's like not available everywhere. And, fair play, right? Like there are definitely folks who are going to have a better experience with this. But, I think for me, like when you're looking at, a device that's $350, like I just don't feel like this necessarily justifies the cost of entry, and the fact that it, is, a little bit more closed off than the Steam Deck, I don't think helps, and like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I think it's only closed off because it's an Android tablet essentially.
Right. And I guess you could crack it, but it's like,
well, it runs Google services, so you can just get into the Google Play Store and download whatever you want from there.
okay.
But I don't know. Even running Android apps, I just like it's nowhere near. It's not even in the same like galaxy as the Steam Deck in terms of like power and performance, which is bonkers. And it costs almost as much. And it makes me think, are Steam selling these low end Steam Decks at a loss? Because I know Gabe, when it was initially announced, said that price point to hit was really difficult, or painful, I think was the word he used. It was a painful price. But I just can't see that they're making a loss on them. I wouldn't have thought they would. But maybe they are. Maybe that's what they're doing. It's like the corner of the market. Let's make a loss on that low-end model in the hope that people upgrade to the middle or high-end.
And that's
model.
the thing. I don't even think they have to do that, though, right? Because it's like, I think they're doing it with the knowledge that it's the same. The deal benefits them in the same way that it does for PlayStation, right? Where it's like, we know that we're the de facto place to play PC games for the most part, but like I would say the vast majority of users who purchase a Steam Deck are only buying games on Steam, right? Like for that device. So I think it's the argument where it's like, yeah, well, we'll take a loss on the hardware, but then the hope is that you buy more games, right? Or like you buy games specifically for your Steam Deck, and then that'll cover us eventually, right? Over the lifetime of you owning the device, it plays out for us, so we can take a hit up front. Whereas with this, they don't have that same win condition, right? Because it's like, how is Logitech profiting beyond you buying the device? I guess they're probably getting a cut of something. Like I could see them having some kind of like software sale share deal or something like that, where they're partnering, and if you buy it, but like I don't know, like. I'm sure they're not.
I mean, maybe if you use their codes in the box, like for Game Pass or something.
And then maybe they have a profit share with Microsoft on that. But like,
I don't think so. I think the profits made in the traditional model. If we made this device, it probably cost us $250 to make. We're selling it for $350. You buy it direct from us, we get all of the profit on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Just for me, it makes no sense. If it makes sense for you, then great. It's obviously a much smaller, lighter device, different form factor. It looks really cool. I like the look of it. I'm sure the screen's great. I'd love to get my hands on one.
Like the build quality
so
is really
compare
cool.
it.
Yeah, I know. I really would love to get my hands on one. And this is we got right in here from one of our Patreon producers, Mr. Zaid Ito, who wrote in on our Discord and said, "Are we starting a GoFundMe to get Pete this Logitech garbage so he can test it out for us?" And I'll tell you this is my challenge to you, Steam Deck podcast listeners. If you want us to review one, sure, just buy us one. we'll give you a full breakdown. I'll play it for a month.
Sure. I mean, I'd love to try one and have it prove me wrong. And maybe I need to go back. I need to try xCloud again because maybe it has improved. but I just don't think it will have in the 2-3 months I last tried it. I tried it a couple of months into me having my Steam Deck, and it was just like, yeah, this is an okay experience. And if I was playing a game like Life is Strange, where I'm just making choices and there's no real action involved, would be absolutely fine. But try and play something like Forza Horizon 5 on that, where you need a little bit of precision when you're driving at ridiculous speeds.
Something
around
like
corners.
a turn-based RPG could work, right? Like that would be fine. You could play like Pokemon on this, probably, but like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I just feel like if you've got an Android phone already, which obviously, Androids have more phones than iPhones. So if you've got an Android phone already, or even an iPhone, you can connect a controller to it anyway. So if you just wanted something to play games on while you're away, and you're already taking your phone with you, get something like the Razer Kishi or Backbone.
Yeah, or the Backbone.
And play on that. And I feel like you'd have a similar experience, probably on a better screen, with similar battery life.
It's a lot smaller though.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what phone you've got. Some of those Samsung phones are ginormous.
I mean, I don't know. I've got a really big fucking Samsung phone, and it's not 12 inches.
Is that how big the screen is? 12
I think
inches?
that's what it says. Yeah, it's a 12-inch screen.
Okay. It's 7-inch diagonal screen. So it's about the same size as your Samsung.
Yeah, that's actually not that big.
Yeah.
My bad.
I think a similar size screen to like a Switch Lite. And it's probably a similar form factor and size to it as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like you chuck a Backbone, or even just hook up an Xbox controller to it. You can get that 8-bit Dell Xbox controller, which is like branded, comes with the nice the nice holder for your phone. I think that's probably a better route to go. And it's a lot cheaper point of entry because you've already got the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate because I think like the vision for this device is cool, but I don't really feel like the tech is there quite yet. And like the other things you would want to use it for, it just isn't as good as the alternatives that are available.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So this is an interesting question. Dev Timmy over on the Discord wrote in and said, didn't phone manufacturers fail to make games devices in the past already though? And I definitely, right? This is far from the first mobile developer to try and make a device like this. But I am glad to see other people trying, right? And like seeing that this is a moment that's happening, and that like, we can maybe see some more competition in the market, because obviously that's always a good thing. But also like, I think especially with the Steam Deck, I think Valve is the type of company to look at what competitors are doing and learn from it and iterate, rather than like, we talk about, Nintendo sometimes and the kind of like, I would love for them to learn from some of the things from the Steam Deck, but I don't know that they will, right? I don't think they look at it as a legit competitor, and like, I don't think they think about things that way. Whereas like, I could see Valve looking at this and being like, oh, we could make that happen. Like if we really wanted to.
Yeah, I think so. I also think a lot of those companies just went in half-assed. I don't think Nokia, when they did the N-Gage, really committed to it. It was too much of a phone.
That was such a shit show, yeah. Oh my god.
PlayStation didn't want to dilute the PSP at the time. They had the PSP Go, and they made that PlayStation phone through Sony Ericsson, and it only played PS1 games. And it was just like, why? Oh, because we don't really want to cannibalize our sales of the PSP. It's just like, well, that sucked. And I just feel like since then, the gaming phones, like the ROG phone, and there was a couple of others, have really just been Android phones that have been gaming branded with maybe like a slightly higher processor or CPU or GPU or whatever in there, so that you can play the games that you're going to be playing on your phone anyway, but they go a little longer, they look a bit better, that kind of thing. And I just don't necessarily see the value in it. I feel like there is another angle to this device particularly that I feel like is worth taking into consideration. Like, they did announce a partnership with Tencent for this device in particular in August. And it seems like the Chinese market is probably going to be a big one for them, especially with the infrastructure that they've got there, with Tencent backing it, with Tencent's cloud streaming on there.
Yeah, and how many games they have that run on mobile devices and stuff, right? Like you think about like Pokemon Unite, right? Like when that came to Switch first, and then it eventually came to like Android, and it's like that's why, right? It's so people can play it in China, where people are playing on mobile devices or on PC or whatever rather than, or maybe not rather than, but in greater numbers than they are playing on like quote unquote traditional consoles, because it's only a couple years ago that you were allowed to sell traditional consoles in China. So it's interesting.
Yeah. So
on
clearly, Karen.
I was gonna say, on the note of Game Pass, we got another. This was another one from Armo, who we read the question about the port earlier. I'm sorry, not the port, the dock with the controller ports. And Armo wrote in and said, I don't see why Valve wants Game Pass on Steam Deck. Like, if Steam are selling these at a loss, getting Game Pass on it is just taking away sales from Steam. For example, why would I buy Slime Rancher 2 on Steam when Game Pass has it for free? I think this is interesting because we've talked a lot about the idea of like Game Pass on Steam Deck. I actually don't think it would be Valve who would be the ones that make it happen. I think if anything, it would probably be more likely that Xbox would want to get it on more platforms and would make a Linux-friendly version so that it could run on other platforms, right? And that they're going to be like, and maybe they won't because obviously they own Windows and there's like that conflict of interest there and everything. But
yeah, and there's like intrinsic DRM that's built in because they own the Windows platform, right? So they can just be like, oh well, it's secure because we own the platform, and blah blah blah. When they're talking to developers, so no one's gonna be able to pirate your game. But I could see them partnering with Valve in the same way that EA did, though. Like EA Play is on Steam, and it's a subscription you can sign up to in Steam. And I would imagine Valve gets a cut of it if you sign up through Steam.
right.
But if you had an account or a subscription previously, you can just sign in and you can download all of the games with EA Play. And I think having that on there just makes it a much more streamlined experience. Not every game's on Game Pass. Granted, some hot games like Slime Rancher are. But some people will also want to buy those games when they leave Game Pass, because games don't stay on Game Pass forever.
Right.
So, and if you have Game Pass, you might cancel the subscription because you're not really playing anything other than that specific game. And if you're going to buy a game, well, the Xbox Store's not there, so you're going to buy it from Steam. So I think that goes some way to explain why they might potentially want it on there. But I also think Valve just have this mentality of the Steam Deck is a PC.
Exactly.
And you can do everything you can do on a PC. It's open. So if you want different markets and things on here, you can do it. We're not going to stop you. It's an open platform.
That's, I think, the answer to Armo's question here, right? Is I don't think it's that Valve wants Game Pass on PC. It's that I think that they will, or on Steam Deck, it's that they will not stand in the way of it, I think. Because you could launch the Epic Game Store on it if you wanted. They don't want you to do that, but you could. You could do it.
Yeah, I've played Epic Games Store games that I got for free. I've played Fall Guys on there once it went free to play. But I could see Game Pass coming to Steam, but I can also see Game Pass coming to PlayStation. And so
you're crazy.
I really feel like
you're
that
crazy.
is maybe Game Pass comes to Steam and it's only first party games. And it's like that stripped down version rather than full PC Game Pass. The version on Steam is all of Microsoft's games. And I could see something like that happening.
Yeah. I don't know that it's foregone conclusion that it'll happen, but I think I'll be surprised if there isn't a way for you to play Xbox Game Pass on your Steam Deck within the next couple of years. I really do. I think that would be odd to me.
Even if it's an open source solution, I can see something happening.
Right. Like you said, you can figure out you can get cloud streaming working on it right away, right? That's not a thing that Xbox figured out. It's a thing that the community.
Well, they did. There is an official article about xCloud streaming, and it's this weird article. It's not an official it's not really legit. It feels janky as fuck because you have to download Microsoft Edge, then you have to add a shortcut to Steam, and you have to add in a bunch of console commands. It's horrible. It's awful experience. If you're gonna do it, and I'm gonna do a tutorial for the channel for this, I highly recommend a little app called Greenlight. It used to be called Xbox X Cloud Client. It's currently going through a rebrand for V2. And this is a little wrapper, a little app that sits around xCloud and will allow you to stream xCloud games, but it also has the benefit of also allowing what you wanted, Pete, which is the local streaming. over the local network.
I'm watching the video right now of you doing it on
your.
your Steam Deck, and you can see the Xbox on the background and everything, like on your TV. Very cool.
I found it to be absolutely flawless. The
It looks
latency
seamless.
is next to none. There's like it's almost indistinguishable. I have played Hitman on here. I've played Forza Horizon 5 on here. I've checked out a bunch of games. You can like even stream video from like video platforms. If you've got something like Netflix on there, you can like stream that over to the Steam Deck. It's really phenomenal how well it works.
I can't believe how good the Forza demo that you did looks. Hold on.
Yeah, it's so good. But I'm gonna do a tutorial for people to get this set up, but I'll put some links in the description anyway if you want to. It's just an app image you can download, and if you download something called App Image Launcher as well and follow the instructions on how to get that set up, it's fairly simple. You then just add it as a non-Steam app. And I also want to check out Chiaki this week. I don't know if that's still something you're going to be checking out.
Yeah, that's the PlayStation one. I haven't got. If you remember on last week's show, I was like, I don't know if I'll get to it this week, but I should be able to do it next week. I'm going to try to get both of these set up, I think.
Chiaki's really cool. On my list, and then I'm going to do a tutorial video, like I said, for the channel. So be on the lookout for that. That should be up this week.
Yeah, very nice. This is cool, and I gotta say, like, this definitely, it's like when you see that you can do this, it's like, yeah, I mean, it'll take a little work, but like,
it takes 5 minutes. Honestly, it's not even really much work.
It's like, so, like, do you really need to buy this $300 device that does this when you can just do it yourself?
No, probably not. It's also worth saying that the developer has, like, someone posted on the GitHub issues and opened a ticket, and the developer Jim Kroon has said that once I get my Steam Deck in about a month, I'm going to make sure everything works properly, and then he's going to submit it to FlatHub, which means it will then show up on the Discover Store. So if you can hold out a month, it's literally going to be like going to that Discover Store, like when you go to desktop mode, you type in green light, you click download, and it will download the app, and you just add that as a non-Steam app to Steam.
There you go.
And then you can launch it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, keep your eyes out for that that explainer that Steve will get out, and if you want to do this for yourself, you can follow along here. But definitely a cool thing and something I'm really eager to try, because I would really love to be able to take advantage of this when I want to like continue playing an Xbox game up in my bedroom at night or something like that, right? Like that.
I think it's going to get me back into Elden Ring, that I can actually play it handheld and bring my save over, that I can start chipping away at that again and actually start playing it. Because that's one of those games where I constantly need to be chipping at it in order to make any progress.
Yeah, for sure. Makes sense. So yeah, I think for me right now, verdict on the Logitech G CLOUD is like, it doesn't seem like it has the sauce for me, but I'm excited to see other people get in this race. And like, I just love handhelds. I love handheld gaming, and the idea of that, like, you have all these different folks kind of competing for oxygen now. And that the Steam Deck, I think, is very clearly emerging as like the winner of this right now. Like, it's exciting. It's really exciting, because I think it's only going to make Valve hungrier to keep growing it and growing the market. And I think, hopefully other people like Logitech will kind of, follow suit and see like what their take is, and like how we can continue to push what handheld gaming looks like, and even like what cloud gaming looks like, and how these devices can like continue to evolve as the technology does. Because eventually this is going to be a thing that you can do reliably, and that's an exciting prospect for sure.
Yeah, but then I think I want a device where it's got a SIM card in, and I can stream it literally anywhere, and I don't have to be connected to Wi-Fi, which I feel like my phone is going to offer. Like, I do think the phone with like a controller attachment probably does 90% of what I would want from the Logitech thing.
I hear you to some degree, but I don't like that experience. I feel like it's generally pretty flimsy, and it never feels like you're actually playing on a device. It feels like you're playing on like a weird hybrid thing.
No, that is fair though. Yeah, that is fair.
And then there's like the other elements to it of like, I have a case on my phone, and if I want to put the Kishi on it, I have to take the case off every time. Like, that's fucking annoying. I don't want to do that. And like, I also think it comes back to me for the same reason that I like the Steam Deck and I don't like PC gaming, is that I want to game on a dedicated gaming device. I don't want to be in the middle of a video game and then get a text message and that fucking interrupts me, or like,
Yeah.
or like,
Yeah, I mean that's the same reason I have a Kindle, because I could use Kindle on my phone.
but you want to just
being able
read.
to have that dedicated reading device
Yeah.
where I've got no distractions, it does make a lot of sense in
And like
that regard. Yeah.
even aside from the distractions element, there's psychology behind that, right? And it's easy to feel and it's hard to explain, but it's the same reason that a lot of people, myself included, benefit a lot from being like, this is my office, this is where I work, my living room is where I relax, my bedroom is where I sleep. And like there's studies that show that having that separation is good for your mental health and like is good for like the way that you like, it helps you get in sleep mode when you go in your bedroom, and that's the only thing you do in your bedroom is sleep, or like, maybe have sex or whatever, right? But like that's what you do there. You go there to sleep and then that's it. That helps you get in that mindset rather than having like a multi-purpose space that you do everything in. And I feel that way about gaming, where like when I sit down and pick up my PlayStation controller or my Xbox controller or my Switch or my Steam Deck or whatever, right? Like that to me is like, it's video game time. And I can, in 2 clicks, I want to be in my game and playing and not waiting for it to boot. And I've got a fucking Excel open, or because I was doing something for work and I didn't want to close it, or I'm getting a Slack message or this or that. I hate that. I hate that experience. And
one thing I started doing on my because I work from home. I use this computer for work, and I also use it for obviously what we do. I have 2 accounts, and one's like configured and set up for work, and it's got like Xcode and VS Code and all of that stuff on, and then this one's got like OBS and Audacity and things like that in. I recommend doing that if you're someone who needs that segmentation. Just have like a gaming account, and all that's on there is just like games, if you did want to start using your PC for gaming more.
yeah, and I think that makes sense. That's a good suggestion. But in general, I think it's just that's my attitude, and like I want devices for gaming to be for gaming. And
yeah,
for me, I think something like this, I could see something like this filling a niche for me at some point in the future. But like for right now, it's like I don't think I need like a third.
I was looking for something like this last year.
Prior to the Steam Deck. I remember you wanted to buy one.
I want something that can. I was gonna buy like a little emulation device. I ended up like jailbreaking my Vita and installing like Homebrew and things like that on there and emulators. But something like this would have been perfect. Like, I can also stream like games from my Xbox. That's awesome. I feel like if the Steam Deck didn't exist and I got in on the $299 pre-order, I probably would be pretty happy with the Logitech device. It's just because this has come out in a world post Steam Deck, where we know what's possible from a handheld, that this just feels a little bit lackluster now for that price.
Yeah, and I wonder how long this was like in development, and then they were like, you know what I mean? Like it's like this certainly wasn't made in response to the Steam Deck, I wouldn't imagine, right? It's a thing that probably came out, and they're like, shit, like this. Yeah. Now we have an inferior product that we have to move forward with, but. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, right? I don't think this is the one, but I guess we'll see. So, thank you guys for joining us here in another episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. If you want to let us know what your thoughts on the Logitech G CLOUD are, or, I guess your thoughts on the idea of like any kind of thing coming and being able to really, truly compete or dethrone the Steam Deck, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from who you think could do it, or why you think no one could do it. So please remember, like we said at the top, there's a bunch of ways you can write in. Questions at flipscreen.games. Come join us on Discord, where we've got a thread every week where you can discuss the show and everything. However you choose to get in touch, we'd love to hear from you and get some more reader mail for this show. It was nice to have some questions this week to jump back to. So come be a part of the conversation over on the Discord, or hit us up on social, however you do so. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here. Remember, flipscreen.games is the website where you can find links to all the places we are all over the web, our sister shows, our other channels, all that good stuff. So however you choose to get involved, wherever you choose to spend your time with us, we thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week.